Very good. All right, let's get into the meat and veg. Let's get into the menu for the pod tonight. As per standard for entree, we're going to review Super Rugby Aotearoa Round 3. For main course, we're going to preview Round 4, or we're going to call it Fantasy Round 1. So we're going to preview Super Rugby AU Round 1 and Super Rugby Aotearoa Round 4, which is fantastic. We have 4 games coming up, so how good. And then for dessert, we're going to do a quick preview of Super Rugby AU, and I guess what else are we going to do in that, guys?
We're just going to basically say what we think how they're going to rank at the end of this season, 1 through to 5, and pick the guys we think that might shine. There's a few guys that already put their hand up early on in the season, but I think this is a great opportunity. Head-to-head Wallaby, potential, so it'll be good.
Yeah, and I guess any further player movements that we haven't captured in the preview, and there's definitely a lot of new names out there that people might not have heard of. So,
yep.
Excellent. All right, without further ado, let's jump into the entree. So, Super Rugby Aotearoa Round 3, the Highlanders Highlanders didn't have the bye. I'm fairly sure I watched them play. So, we haven't updated the notes.
Had the bye.
Hurricanes had the bye. And in the first fixture this week, we had the Blues taking on the Highlanders. And who wants to jump in and start us on this one?
Yeah, look, I'll happily start. The Blues took this one 27-24, 4 tries to 3. I think we all tipped that. The Blues have been doing well. In the returns column, Nani Punavai, who was an ex-Crusaders player, he made his debut. For injuries, Sam Gilbert, it looks like he did his ACL.
He didn't make his debut. He'd been playing in Super Rugby in the first 7 rounds. But still a young gun, absolutely.
Sorry, we made his return, yeah.
That knee injury, I mean, they haven't announced anything, but the mechanism, watching it, like it's ACL all day long.
Yeah, it looked pretty bad.
That was on Sam Gilbert, that one we're talking about.
Yeah, that's right. I watched it about 6 times in my physio clinic today.
You just have it on loop in the background, when new patients walk in, that's all they say.
Right. Sort of a few points out of this one. The Highlanders seem to be a whole lot better at Super Rugby Aotearoa than they did early on in the year. Their defence seems more organised. Their set piece seems stronger. So they actually seem to be a little bit more of a threat, even though they didn't take this one. While the Blues, their kicking game's been a huge difference maker for them. Terry Black's been extremely accurate with his kicking. A decent short game with Bodie Barrett and Sam Nock, who I don't know for me if he's their 9 for the rest of the year.
I like Finlay Christie.
What are you going to say?
I don't mind Nock, but I'll jump in. I thought there was a cool stat to do with the kicking. I just saw it on Twitter recently. I've committed the cardinal sin of forgetting who to shout out here, but Bodie Barrett's kicking, which has been fantastic. But he's been kicking out of hand in this competition. 33% of his kicks have been with his off foot, with his left foot. And last weekend, 45% of his kicks were with his off foot. So he's truly, I was going to say ambidextrous, but Nelson, the podiatrist, is there a word for ambi feet?
I'm gonna go with ambidextrous.
Yeah, there's not. I actually looked it up. I was testing.
I think it's just ambidextrous.
Ambipedal or something?
There you go.
I thought I was testing you, but still, anyway, he's that good that you couldn't tell which way he's kicking. But
No, to be honest, I was more impressed with the Terra Black's kicking game in this one. I thought it was absolutely exceptional. Bodie was still solid, but there was 1 or 2 aimless kicks still from him. I don't. We've been saying on this pod week in, week out that a Terra Black, if you put Bodie Barrett in there, you gain a lot, but you don't lose anything. But probably the one thing I would say is Black's kicking has been excellent. Kicking for goal, I think he's over 90%. And maybe just under now. I think he missed another one on the weekend. And in play is exceptional.
He's also, if this was rugby AU, he kicked a few on the weekend, the 50-22s, and made it look extremely easy. So it'll be interesting to see how teams have to defend that in the Australian version of this season.
I'm very excited for that rule, yeah.
The stuff that I wanted to look at was the outside backs in this game. So first of all, you can't go past Mr. Caleb Clark. The news story going around was that his grandfather passed away that morning, was it?
Yeah, earlier that day.
Which is obviously pretty tough for anyone, and he just absolutely killed it. He played out of his skin and said it was for his granddad. So that was pretty awesome. And he just keeps getting better and better and better. The tucked in shirt, I think, just sells it for me. It just looks wrong, especially when you got an ass and legs that powerful and that big. But yeah, very good from him.
He just looked like an extremely mature young man as well. He was interviewed after the match, and it was quite an emotional interview, to be fair, if you were watching it. But he's got his head on straight. He's committed to his rugby. He's committed to his team, and it's great to see, as well as his religion, to be honest.
And more importantly, he's a weapon. He is an absolute beast. I love him.
What was it? A cross between his father and Nonu. Ma'an Nonu was one of the calls on Twitter.
Mate, I reckon he makes Martin on a little bit small. He's got those Jonah Lomu thighs, mate. Have you seen those thighs, mate? He's enormous.
No, mate, he doesn't make Martin Nonu look small.
That's a stretch.
Right, on the other side of things, though, Scott Gregory, I think he had an absolute shocker. First of all, he absolutely spilled a few bombs in a row. He knocked on some other balls as well. And then in that first half as well, he tried to kick a ball from inside his own try line and just kind of waited a little bit too long. Got it charged down by Hoskins Tutu, who else would it be?
Oh, yeah.
And Bolton Papali'i just kind of fell into the breadbasket for him and he dove over, and it was just kind of like the icing on the cake for a pretty sad night for him. I thought he was probably worse than old mate last week.
And also just for every opportunity to talk about Caleb Clark, it was fantastic. They're both Sevens teammates, and after Gregory made that kick and they scored the try, Caleb Clark was running in and just kind of grabbed him, pulled him into the huddle celebrating, which was fantastic. But there was also, they kept kicking those bombs to him all night, Gregory. And there was one I remember where, as he caught it, Caleb Clark absolutely smashed it. So he was having a tough night for sure.
So that took it to 22-10 at halftime.
Yeah, it was an interesting second half. The Highlanders fought back with 2 converted tries in only a short period of time, 13 minutes. Shannon Frizzell driving over pretty much.
Yeah,
wasn't it?
ran like post-contact meters.
Yeah.
It's like 5 to 10 meters. Huge.
Yeah, and Mitch Hunt's his little try as well. He what did he just found the gap, turned on the afterburners and shot through.
Show and go.
Yeah, big step, little dart. Yeah, he looked really good, I thought.
Yeah. So they actually blew out to a lead there, taking it 24-22 after being down 22-10. But yeah, Mitch Hunt, we were talking about him after the game. He was not only their best player at times, he was their worst player at times. Yeah. So that try was absolutely brilliant. A few things he did early was absolutely brilliant.
That short ball as well, shortly after that try, where he put, I think it was one of the props.
Yeah, just straight through a gap.
Almost scored again.
But yeah, he had a bomb that went straight out. He had a few silly little plays, a few poor reads in defence. And he took that weirdest thing in the match, a guy that's really composed normally at the back end of the game. And he had I think it was a 72nd minute or so, they had the advantage and they were 3 points down. So he decided, first of all, that he would go for the drop kick.
With the penalty.
With the penalty advantage. Yeah. So that's the time you chance your arm and you go for the try. Then when they actually got the penalty awarded because he missed the kick, they then decided to go for the try, even though that's probably the time you want to settle, take the points. And I mean, this is a game where you don't get a draw. It goes into extra time. So it was probably even more valuable in that sort of sense. And they went for the try and they got the line out turned over. So it was just a really couple minutes of just strange decisions there. And that was definitely headed by Mitch Hunt with that drop kick. I thought it was very strange.
Not only was that a weird decision, but I thought it was a bit telling from Aaron Smith that he lost a bit of composure as well.
Yep.
To me, I read that as him being really frustrated by the fact that Mitch Hunt took the shot at goal and went, "You idiot, we should have gone for touch. We should have had a crack at them." And then doing it when he probably shouldn't have straight afterwards when there was no second guess. And then they turned the line out over. So the execution from the Highlands pretty poor.
I think the last point out of this one was it was the first of the 2 matches this week, and it showed the difference with penalties. The penalty count was 17. I think it was 11-6, which is half the games pretty much, roughly half the penalties in the games previously, especially in that week 1.
And I think they cleaned up what they were talking about as well. You know, they said that they wanted to give more benefit to the attacking team. I think there was only one moment where I thought they were a little hard done by on someone diving over the ball in this game as well. So really, I think the refs refereed it very, very well.
Yep.
I think it was quite a while until the first penalty. There was which was refreshing, I think it was a good 25, 30 minutes. I could be wrong. But, that was great. All right, on to the match stats. They were pretty even. In the end, it was 54 to 46% possession. So both had plenty of time to take their chances. The only really big difference were the meters. So the Blues 397 run meters to 262. So they just used more of their ball. And yeah, I mean, they had some fantastic runners. Caleb Clark really opening up the field. Tackle bust 17 to 15, so there were quite a lot of busts. Line breaks 6 to 4, so it was good seeing. Was it raining the first half, or was it just dewy? I can't remember. It was raining.
Dewy, yeah, we were expecting it to be rainy, but it looked like it was really slippery. Like there were a lot of handling errors.
It looked like must have been oil on the ball. Like
someone soaked them up to try and stop the bugs transferring for coronavirus.
I was at the pub for this one, so I can't be sure, but there couldn't have been more handling errors than the next game, I think. But,
there was a lot, though.
You reckon? Okay. Very good. All right, Nels, do you want to take us through the fantasy points for this one?
Yeah, I think this shows why the Blues got it done. It was actually a pairing of man of the matches. Dalton Papali'i from the forward pack and Caleb Clark on the wing, flanker and winger, both getting 63 points. Dalton Papali'i got 2 tries from his 9 runs, 41 metres. He had 2 line breaks, an offload, and he made 9 tackles. Caleb Clark, absolute freak. This guy got 1 try assist, 7 runs for 77 metres, made 2 line breaks, made an offload. He made 2 turnovers as a winger. That's probably coming from his sevens history there, but he was an absolute freak.
And just on the point of Dalton Papali'i as well, he spends more time on the wing than Caleb Clark anyway, doesn't he? So if he keeps getting starts, I think he's a smoky, good loose forward pick, isn't he?
Quite potentially.
He's going from strength to strength as well. I think he's fantastic. Blake Gibson. We've said see a champ about 50 times, Blake Gibson, but see a champ.
Yeah, I agree. For the Blues, Alex Hodgman got 48 points, which is a pretty good showing, especially for him. While the Highlanders, Marino Makieli Tu'u got 48 points, Shannon Frizzell got 45, Aaron Smith got 40. Interestingly, Hoskins Tutu got 35 or so. He didn't even crack that, 40-point buffer, even though he had quite a strong game. But I think it is worthwhile noting that Makieli Tu'u also had a really solid game.
That was
number 8 for the team of the week.
Yeah.
We said we were excited about that back row matchup, and they did deliver. I think
Shannon
a lot of hard running from all of them.
Shannon Frizzell must have been listening when you talked junk about him last week, mate.
16 out of 16 tackles, I think I saw from him. I can't believe you didn't mention that. Huge.
He wasn't man of the match.
Very good.
Great try as well. That was probably the best game I've seen him play in a while.
If you think about it, apart from talking up, we're excited to see that game. That really is a battle of 4 prospective people putting their hands up for the All Blacks number 8 jersey. So if you wanted to make a statement, that would be the time, really. Well, very good. I think that'll do us for that game. Let's take us on to the Sunday fixture. We had the Crusaders at home taking on the Chiefs. Harry.
Yeah, so the Crusaders hadn't lost at home for 167 years. And in this one, the streak continues. Crusaders 18 to the Chiefs 13. Only 2 tries to 1 in what was actually a pretty tight affair the entire game, I think. Returning, you had Sam Cane back. They proved me wrong. They gave him a cortisone injection last week, and I said if that's for a nerve, he's in big trouble. But obviously, it wasn't because he's not in big trouble. He's completely fine.
He's come back from a broken neck. He's immune to pain, obviously.
That's fair. I didn't consider that. On top of that as well, you had a couple of people pulled relatively late. You had Va'i, the lock was pulled with sickness kind of midweek. Solomon Alamalo got injured. No, sorry, was named, but then got pulled 30 minutes pre-game for Ateni Nanai Saturo, also due to sickness, not the COVID I've heard. And Mitch Karpik came on and within a few minutes got a concussion as well. Poor guy.
Yeah. Sam Cane thought he was getting a rest, but no, he was brought back on.
Yeah, that's right. Sam Cane, like you said, he doesn't feel pain, so just play 75 minutes champ.
That's it.
A couple of interesting things out of this one was seeing, as you said, Nanai Saturo come on. He actually got the jump over Sean Stevenson. I don't think he earned it. Did you guys think he did much when he was there, or
Yeah, I thought he
didn't
was
capitalise?
He did a couple of good things. He had a couple of good touches. Yeah.
He wasn't as exciting as he has been in other chances. And I mean, this is a short season.
I thought he was solid. I saw him bump someone. He made some good space. He didn't get a lot of chance, to be honest.
And he made one or two really good defensive plays in terms of he got back into the space they were going to kick a few times. That was very important.
Oh, fair enough. I'll let my word. He beat one defender. He ran 52 metres, and he made 4 tackles. So
that's stats.
If that's good for you guys, that's good. All right. And another interesting thing was Bradley Slater. He was handed the start over Tokiaho, a guy that has absolutely killed it whenever he's had an opportunity. You don't really rest guys against the Crusaders, so I can't take anything out of it. Then they were giving they just didn't think he had the spot locked down.
But you don't leave the Ferrari parked in the garage. I don't know what they're doing there. Tugio is fantastic in all facets of the game, as far as I'm concerned.
They must really rate Bradley Slater, because in the first iteration of Super Rugby this year as well, Slater did get a couple of runs as well. So they obviously think he's a real prospect, and someone's got to take that starting jersey in the next couple of years. I think it'll be up for grabs, so they're giving him the opportunity.
Is it just me, or does he look like a far less impressive Nathan Harris? And Nathan Harris already doesn't look very impressive. So
he looks white, and he's a hooker. Maybe similar coloured hair. Is that what you're going for?
No, he's the same frame, and he just doesn't do anything that excites me. I mean, look, that's pretty much.
Yeah. He's not. There's no flair about him. Bit pudgy around the edges.
Look, he's young. Give him time. Yeah. He's not Dane Coles, I'll give you that.
He's not Dane Coles. But something out of this match that I thought was I don't know. I don't want to read too much into Aaron Cruden. He made so many silly decisions, made quite a few turnovers, like losing the ball. It was a game for him where he looked like all this weight was on his shoulders, and he thought he had to make the Chiefs win this one. And he just seemed to crack under that pressure. Harry was frothing on the fact that he did a step once.
Yeah, I was going to say, so did I. It looked like he turned the clock back. I was like, sorry, what? Is this 6 years ago? He's taking it to them.
Straight into contact.
Yeah. I want him, though, as well. I was like, what's going on?
Nelson rightly said no one fell for it, but it looked good.
He stepped into Michael Alalatoa. He didn't have a round or anything, just straight into the guy. So,
there was once he made a line break, I swear, didn't he? He must have made one.
He did, yeah, he did. But then he did a couple of offloads. He threw an offload to no one after that.
Yeah, that's right.
Richie Moanga's hands. So.
He did a couple of good things, but it was just he seemed stressed.
It's the kind of play that if he was 20 years old and playing, you would have gone, it was a really immature performance from a guy with a lot of potential. That's how I looked at it.
Maybe he's been reborn after COVID. Maybe that's what it is. He's a new man.
10-3. Half-time, only one try, and that was to Will Jordan, again on the back of Sevu Reece just kind of doing all the work. I think it was a crossfield kick from Richie Moe kicked it, I think so. And it was that little chip over the top. Damien Mckenzie jumped for it and just completely fluffed it. Sevu Reece through the line, Will Jordan support. Those two were just phenomenal together, so electric. Really, really good seeing them.
The Crusaders really use, with Richie, they use the kick interchangeably with the pass. Like, he's that accurate. It's unbelievable.
His short kicking game is outrageous. And the damage it's doing to defensive lines is crazy. I think they're the only team in the world who have a good answer to line speed at the moment. The only team in the world. And I'm counting South Africa. I'm counting England. They play physical. But Richie Moanga's kicking game, they turn him around and they put everyone on the back foot. It's crazy.
I agree. I would like to watch the Crusaders play the Springboks. I'm all for that.
R.I.P. Springboks.
Didn't they at the World Cup?
But yeah, fair. Okay, no, that's good.
Yeah, that's right.
And they won actually. So yeah.
Look, on the back of the halftime break, yet again, Sevu Reece and Will Jordan scored another try. This one, Nelson and I, we had a bit of a discussion about there was a tap on. I think was that the Aaron Cruden tap on? It was. Aaron Cruden tapped the ball onto absolutely nobody. Ball went out. Sevu Reece picked it up from in the middle of the signs and quickly saw Will Jordan coming down the short side, threw the quick line out. Jordan went over and scored the try untouched.
Right.
While Aaron Cruden was busy arguing with the ref that he tapped the ball into no one and it was the Crusaders' fault.
Great opportunist try. And, I mean, it showed a difference of attitude there. You know, the Crusaders were always ready to attack and keep fighting for this game. And the Chiefs just were distracted. I think it was they weren't switched on to stop that. That's something that you've always got to be ready. If the ball goes out and there's a potential, you've got to be able to stop and prepare for that line out or prepare for an intercept.
I got the feeling, let's see what you guys think. In the pre-game, they were talking a lot about how the Chiefs just find a way to get under the Crusaders' skin, like no one else can, with a bit of niggle. And I feel like they just weren't able to do that this time. They just couldn't seem – nothing they were doing was unsettling the Crusaders, it kind of felt like, in the first half at least.
Yeah. Yeah, and what did you think of Cullen Grace's, first two games of Super Rugby Aotearoa as well, Craig?
Mate, I barely noticed he was playing. No, just comparatively, he's been pretty quiet.
I think Blackhat has been quite good off the bench. He's surprised me a little bit as someone that we haven't seen a lot of as an Australian rugby fan. He's been really good. I wouldn't surprise me if he actually gets a start.
I think one thing out of this, it shows there's been quite a bit of time for good teams, good coaching staff to be able to understand how certain players play. We always talk about the second-year syndrome for a lot of players. They make their breakout season, then teams have times to understand how they play, and they can actually put things in place to shut them down a little bit more. And maybe that's what we're seeing here. Maybe we're seeing a second-year syndrome, but it's all within the same year because of this coronavirus. There's been months in between that teams could understand how he plays. Maybe he's not as confident rolling into this one. A few different things happen. When you're fighting for your position, it might be a slightly different attitude as well. Maybe there's just a few little factors that are going in there together where he's getting read a little bit better.
I thought maybe it's no Tom Christie. So Cullen Grace's game was so good as a running player, but Tom Christie was making 20-odd tackles a game, 18 tackles a game.
All the tackles.
And making every single one. So, obviously Billy Harmon's a little bit more of an attacking player compared to Christie. And maybe that weight has just shifted back to Cullen Grace as the 6 to be the physical defender as well.
I think it seems like he's definitely been told that's his role, I'd say.
Yeah. Why?
Well, I think when he burst onto the scene in the first half of the season, they didn't expect him to play. Like, I think there was a few injuries. So then he came on, and it was just kind of like an open canvas. Like, try your best, do whatever you want, son.
He made 19 tackles on the weekend.
Grace did. Yeah, wow.
Yeah, he's a good player. Don't get us wrong, but yeah, he's just not standing out as much. After 63 minutes, this was a really interesting stat. I suppose it's talking a little bit more of wet weather footy and the ball was a little bit sloppy, a little bit wet. But the stat was based on where the balance of the teams were in attack, where they were playing off, were they playing off the 9, the 10, the 15. For the Crusaders, they were playing off the 9 70% of the time. They're playing off the 10 20% of the time and the fullback 10% of the time. For the Chiefs, it was pretty similar numbers, 66% off the 9, 22% off the 10, 12% off fullback. So it just shows that the game shortened up, tightened up a fair bit. Yet you still get to see, the tries were out wide. It was the wingers scoring for the Crusaders, and there was a lot of opportunity out on the wings. So I just thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah, it felt like a lot more shovel ball just with the wet weather, for sure.
Yeah. Or kicking if you're a Moanga.
So 18 points to 3. Reasonably late into the game, and then the Chiefs finally started to find their mojo. So obviously fitness isn't their problem. They finished much stronger, I thought, than the Crusaders. But having said that, obviously the Crusaders probably felt like the job was done. They scored the last 10 points, a penalty and a converted try. And Damien Mckenzie, Sean Wainui, Teni Nano Saturu, I thought all 3 of the back 3 players really came into their own. And Sean Wainui did what Sean Wainui does, and that is score tries out of nothing as well. Just continuing to impress me. I don't know I don't know how he's as good as he is. That's the honest truth, but he's really effective.
Say it like it is, Harry. You don't like his face, but somehow he just seems to kill it.
I don't think there's anything to do with it. I think it's just, he's grown on us. I feel like the reason we didn't like him is because he came into the Chiefs as kind of an extended squad player. And then we just always felt like when he was on, he was taking up the space, which could have been some other player that we loved.
They always had the flair, right? They always had Masaturo, they had D-Mac, they had Pulu, they had Alamalo. They always had this flair, and he just didn't fit that role. And he's probably something that they need in their back three. They need that stable, solid player, settle things down, run it in tight, and do his job.
He's the Kiwi Rob Horn. That's how we described him on the weekend.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
He's out of his skin in a position that he just doesn't seem to fit.
Just works hard.
So
that's very good.
My favourite stat looking at these first two games, now that we get into the back end of this one, was the penalties from the first 3 rounds of Super Rugby. Nigel Yeldon, everyone knows Nigel Yeldon, everyone knows him. Total penalties for Super Rugby Aotearoa in the first 3 rounds. Number 1, you had 58 penalties in the 2 games. Round 2, 49 penalties. And round 3, 33 penalties. So huge improvement in this one. 8 each, so 16 total, the lowest so far. And the flow of the game was good despite the handling errors and the horrendous weather.
I'll point out one thing that I did notice in the game, and I did see people talking about it, is the Crusaders did seem to slow that ball down a fair bit. They were lying on the ball a lot more than in the previous 2 weeks when teams just couldn't get away with it. So, I mean, that's probably a positive for them, like if the ref's not pinging it, slow it down, but there's going to have to be some form of balance. We liked the fact that the game flowed, that there was benefit to the attacking team, but there was a few occasions I think the Crusaders really should have been pinged for slowing things down there.
You answered my question. I was going to say, what percentage do we attribute that to a change in refereeing versus a change in playing style? And I think it's clearly been a change in refereeing. I think the message has come down from the top.
In the attacking side, I agree with you. But defensively, I think teams are clearing the ball very, very quickly. I don't think you're seeing any tackler getting anywhere near the ball. There was only one occasion I could think of, and it didn't get pinged on the weekend.
I don't necessarily think that's too much of a factor. I think last week the big issue was the defensive team, as soon as they touched the ball, they got the penalty awarded to them. The player was holding on. So, I mean, as a flanker, you're not going to go, well, they gave us penalties non-stop for touching a ball when we didn't deserve it. Let's stop doing that. I don't think it was necessarily the influence of making the choice not to go for that. I think it was just they were policing a little bit differently.
Surely at some point the referees need to acknowledge what everyone knows, and that is the Crusaders will give away penalties in their own 22 no matter what happens to stop a try being scored, and they need to concede more yellow cards. At some stage, someone has to actually say they do it every single time they're down here for the last 5 years.
Yep.
I think that's fair. All right, now look, before I move on to the match stats, the last point I was going to say, I'm not sure if we already brought it up and I just tuned out, but D-Mac, I think he's been looking better and better with each week. So just kind of more of those probing runs. When I say probing runs, it generally involves him running directly across field and then picking some line to just turn at a sharp angle and hit it. I've been very excited by that.
He had his worst statistical match. So you're basing this off
39.
Yeah, no, but less line breaks and run meters, all this sort of stuff. He's probably doing more of what we expect in terms of we can visually see him doing things. Maybe less controlling the side and things like that. Is that how you?
That's what I mean. I feel like he's back to probing, to trying to find, to trying to really create stuff. And it feels like he just doesn't have the support men. People aren't running lines off that like they normally would. I really want to see Alamalo back in there because he is a gun at turning up in the right place.
And we all know he will be next week. But I thought that was in the last 20 minutes for Mckenzie. He started, but he did a lot of sideways running, trying to find space. And the Chiefs' defensive line was very good. There was nothing there for them. So, still 60 minutes of him not really.
Why was the Chiefs' defensive line trying to stop him?
Crusaders line is what he meant. Very good. All right. Well, so into the
trying to stop D-Man.
Yeah, that's true. It's like he's like Kobe on the field. He just sees all the opposition. It's hard to pass to anyone. Very good. All right. For match stats, the Crusaders, they don't need the ball to beat you. So they had 38% possession, and amazingly, they passed the ball half as many times. So 88 passes to 162. Nice. So clearly, D-Mac was passing too much. That's all I'll say. But territory, similar story, 37% to 63%. Chiefs had almost 70%, 69% in the second half. So Crusaders just do what they do, and they just pin you down and don't let you through. I don't know how they do it. But tackle bust, 14 to the Crusaders, 21 to the Chiefs. Line breaks was the only difference, 5 to the Crusaders and 2 to the Chiefs. Chiefs led in offloads, even on penalties. So, yes, the Crusaders definitely didn't favour that. They just don't need the ball. I think we've always said the Highlanders are the team that don't need the ball to hurt you in recent years, but Crusaders very much the same.
Absolutely. Their defence is just so strong.
Better game management, better defence.
Richie Mo's kicking game. Cody Taylor was the fantasy man of the match with 58 points, so no massive scores in this one. 4 runs for him for 26 metres, so not huge. He had a tackle bust, a line break, a turnover, but made 14 of his 15 tackles. And, you know, that's important to note going into round 1 of draft rugby this week, that your front rowers with a big work rate, they do make double the points on their tackles as well. So that's where his points really came from.
Bonus point there, Mikey Aotearoa also made 14 of 14 tackles. So,
big unit.
Good man.
And also from the Crusaders, Will Jordan got 50, as you'd expect, with a couple of tries. I actually thought he probably would have been the man of the match because of that, but didn't quite get in there. And Sam Whitelock, 41 points as well, not normally a huge fantasy scorer, so good from him to score some points as well. From the Chiefs, no one cracked the magic 40 mark, but Brad Weber and D-Mac did get 39.
Which is basically a fail in the book of D-Mac.
100%.
So, yeah.
You said it was his best game.
Not statistically. So, yes, moving on. All right, that concludes our entree. Let's get stuck into the main course.